The golden age of kids' TV shows. Shows like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, That's So Raven, Wizards of Waverly Place, and Glenn Martin DDS. Where the f did that come from? Get that shit out of here! Those first three shows really helped shape and define my childhood, but one show really shaped it more than all others. Hannah Montana, which I consider the mid-2000s show that helped shape a generation of kids on the Disney Channel. Full of very obscure, strange country lingo.
Like a monkey in a banana bag.
It's about as stupid as a vegetarian having breakfast at the Beef and Waffle.
Smack my goat and call me stupid.
And absolute banger music. Copyright. Watching Hannah Montana brings back super nostalgic memories of me coming home after school and turning on the TV and watching Hannah Montana and then inevitably forgetting about my homework, which spiraled into me becoming an awful, awful student, which now explains why I'm at 24 years old, permanently stuck in a state of arrested development. The point I'm trying to make is that this show is f***ing weird. Now, I know what you're thinking. The show started in 2006, but even for 2006 and Disney Channel, this show is really weird. And let me ask you something. When was the last time you watched this show? Because recently, my girlfriend and I have been watching this show because we enjoy watching shows that remind us of our childhood, because we hate being adults now. And let me tell you, this show got away with so much. If you've been living under a rock for the last, I don't know, 20 years and have never seen this beautiful gem of a show, here's a basic summary for you. Hannah Montana is a show starring Miley Stewart, who is played by Miley Cyrus, who's a normal, average, everyday teenage girl who also lives a double life as an international pop star. The best part about that is, the only way that she can tell the difference between Miley and Hannah is by wearing a blonde wig. Now, I get that this is a children's show, but that seems a little too simple even for a children's show. I mean, there are literally episodes of the show where she interacts with the same person as Hannah and Miley in the same episode. And I guess that this show just exists in a reality where like everyone is face blind, because look at this difference. Oh, and some of the other characters in the show include her father, who is played by the guy who sang in Old Town Road. And it's kind of weird to me that he's never been in any other show or song that I've heard or seen, because I feel like he would be. Oh, he's a former country artist himself? And he's got like a whole list of songs and a whole discography to himself? Oh, and he's actually Miley Cyrus's father in real life. I should have done more research. And there's also Jackson, who is her brother on the show, played by the beautiful Jason Earls. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that Jackson is the entirety of the humor of this show. Jason Earls is so funny on this show, with a complete neglect and disregard for the fact that he's on a children's show on the Disney Channel.
A giant neon wiener flies into the power lines.
What do you mean by that?
The most important detail to remember about Jason Earls' character Jackson, though, is that Jackson is supposed to be 3 years older than Miley in the show, but Jason Earls is 15 years older than Miley Cyrus in real life. Now, this is by far the most important detail about this show, and will definitely come up again later. So the other recurring characters on this show are blonde comic relief, who doesn't know that her best friend is Hannah Montana until the end of the first episode. 2009 Justin Bieber haircut comic relief, who finds out that Miley is Hannah Montana later on that season, I believe. And then there's Napoleon Complex comic relief, who's a 10-year-old who owns the store that Jackson works at. But I should remind you, once again, that the character is 10, and Jason Earls was 30 years old when this show was filmed. I find it really strange that the entire time, the only person that's actually a direct member of her family that shows up in any episodes is her father, because in the show, and it's a very key detail here, the mother is dead. And so you'd think that they'd use the actual mother, who is actually Billy Ray Cyrus's wife, to play Miley's mother. But they don't do that. They just cast Brooke Shields as her mother in this show for like a handful of episodes in dream sequences and flashbacks, and don't use her actual mother until the last episode of the series, where we find out that the entire show was made up in a young Miley Cyrus's head, and her real mother is there, and obviously Billy Ray Cyrus is there, even though he's absolutely horrible the entire show. Like, everything that he says is awful acting.
Got anything for me?
Well, I don't know. Are you sure you can handle it?
You'd be amazed what I could handle.
For me, the entire show being a dream makes a lot of sense, because a lot of the stuff that we're going to go over today only makes sense if it was in someone's nightmare. So with all that background knowledge out of the way now, let's go over some of the episodes that I thought were very, very interesting and made me really rethink how this show was somehow on the air on the Disney Channel in the mid-2000s. Now, we're only going to go over, I believe, 3 episodes this week, but this show is just chock full of ridiculous plot lines and things that I don't think would fly in today's society. Season 1, episode 24 of this show revolves around Miley's school and the fact that there's a super popular girl who prints a list of popularity for the school. And it's printed in the school newspaper, and the teachers are okay with it, and everyone reads it like it's the Bible, and everyone's just okay with it for some reason. And everyone just finds it totally normal that they're just basically using this list to bully people. Again, on a Disney Channel show.
What'd you think? It's not my business.
It's not my problem. Well, it is your problem.
So then we find out that Miley and Blonde Comic Relief are on the bottom of the list, but 2009 Justin Bieber is slightly higher on the list, even though he does things like this.
I'm the man who had the cheese.
I'm the man who had the jerky.
We put them both together.
And dude, it really worked.
Cheese jerky.
Say what? Say what?
Cheese jerky.
So then they're sitting at lunch and talking about it, and then this just happens.
It's a couple of last-page losers in their native habitat.
So sad. Still eating as if they had a reason to live.
I mean, this is on a children's show on the Disney Channel in the mid-2000s. I was watching this at 7 years old. Season 3, episode 1 of this show revolves around a Jackson and Lily plotline of romance, which I know doesn't sound that weird because in the show, Jackson is only 3 years older than Lily, but I'd like to once again remind you that Emily Osment was 16 at the time of filming this, and Jason Earls was 31 years old. I'm pretty awful at math, but if my calculations are correct, that's 15 years older than her on the Disney Channel. And Disney just decided to put the romance plot in the whole episode to put together people that are in real life 15 years apart. Now, it turns out at the end of the episode that the whole thing was a dream sequence, but I still can't believe that the Disney Channel just put this out and said, yeah, this is television we can make for children. So then literally 2 episodes later is probably the most convoluted plotline of the show that I've ever heard. So basically what happens is Miley decides to go to the dentist because she's got a toothache, but she's never been to the dentist alone or without her father. So she goes by herself to try to prove that she's an adult, and it's probably the most awkward and uncomfortable dentist interaction I've ever seen in my whole life.
No, it's purr. Like a kitty. Purr. Purr. Roll your tongue. With a little...
At the end of the episode, Miley ends up going back to the dentist with her father, and Jackson's also there too, and I think he's playing Legos or something with like a kid, but I'd like to remind you once again that that kid is a child, and Jason Earls is a whole-ass 31-year-old adult man who can rent a car and own property. So while all this is happening, 2009 Justin Bieber Comic Relief is going through some meat withdrawals or something because he just loves meat so much, but his girlfriend is trying to eat healthy, and apparently that means that you're just not allowed to eat meat. So then little Napoleon just decides to like cook whole animals out in front of his little shack thing to try to like seduce 2009 Justin Bieber Comic Relief to try to eat all this meat. And then he just eats all the meat there in front of this massive crowd of people, and his girlfriend shows up and he just looks up at her and is like, and honestly I can't even dwell on their relationship because at some point it goes from like him being with her to the literal next episode, him trying to chase after girls, and then the actual next episode later in chronological order, he's back with this girl, and then right back to trying to be like a player. Did the showrunners just forget that he has a girlfriend as a plotline in the show? And if not, why did they paint Oliver like this? Because I feel like this is something that the Disney Channel doesn't really want to advocate to its children to like, you know, cheat on your significant others or like commit acts of adultery. Like, I feel like that's just something that Disney wouldn't want to do. Like, I feel like they just don't want to like have that happen. And then it, I don't know. I just feel like it's bad. Like a bad value that Disney's just going to try to promote. Like, this is not a good value to have. So, to be honest, I feel like this show is the reason that I didn't actually grow up and develop as an adult, which actually makes a lot of sense because was this show a wild ride when I was rewatching it. I mean, There goes my dream of being an international pop star just by wearing a blonde wig. This is why my growth was stunted, like a teenage girl who tried coffee for the first time. I guess the point of the story here is you really, truly can't have the best of both worlds. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm depressed. Thanks for watching. Let me know what other shows you want me to go over in the comments, and I'm gonna go mull over the rest of my life now.